Hello everybody, it's your boy Hawka, the Counter-Strike Scholar, back with another video, this time ranking CSGO teams by ages. Every now and then, I come up with a stupid idea that randomly pops into my brain, and with the lack of Counter-Strike, with the player break, this is the dumb thing I've come up with today. Back at the start of the year, I did one based off the first letter of players' names, and now I'm doing it based on age. So all the 18-year-olds, all the best 19-year-olds, all the best 20-year-olds would be put onto the same team in this hypothetical world. We're assuming everyone can speak English, and we're going to assume that we're trying to make a somewhat structured team so that IGLs can get in there, so that support players can get in there, etc. And this was really hard to do, actually. So some of you guys are definitely going to agree or disagree with some of the team's rankings. So let me know what you guys think. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump into it. Before we get into the video, though, I'm trying to see if I can hit 100k subs by the end of the year. I'm going to be honest, right now, we are not on track. So I'd probably take 50k. But either way, to get there, I need you to subscribe. So go ahead and do it, and let's get into the video. We're starting with number 10, and that is going to be the age 27, which doesn't have the best team, in my opinion. And the main thing this squad lacks is firepower. I mean, you look down this roster, you've got Stanislaw as the IGL. Not a bad start, and you also could have Golden or Emmy there as options. Then Amanek is okay on the AWP, but he hasn't proven he can be a top-tier AWPer. Hobbit is a great star, but Crims has not been as good as you want him to be lately. And then Rush as the support is solid, but this team probably needs a bit more firepower to compete with a bunch of the other squads. In at number 9, we have the 18-year-olds who actually do a bit better than I was expecting. The thing the younger ages struggle with most are IGLs. So Linus is going to have to come in as the IGL, even though I don't think he's massively suited to it. He's the best you're going to get here. And then you actually have a bunch of really good young players. We all saw what Bit could do at the recent event that Na'Vi played. He was incredible at Cologne and looks like a real talent. Then you've got Obo, who doesn't take up too much space on a team, but is always surprisingly reliable for such a young player. I've been an Obo fan for a long time, and I think he could do well on this team. And then to round out the squad, Flames is a great aggressive rifler to throw into the mix. And Masuta is another player who can be maybe a bit up and down, or maybe has some tournaments where he's not firing, but when he does hit, he can hit really hard too. The main thing holding this team back is that lack of really good IGL I was talking about, and there's also no clear AWPer from the 18-year-olds. The other option you have is Magix, who doesn't quite make this team, but also couldn't AWP. So it's going to be full rifles, and this squad has enough skill to beat some teams, but it's not the creme de la creme. Getting into number 8, and the teams are already getting pretty hot because the 19-year-olds have got some talent. But yet again, the teenagers don't have any good IGLs, man. I don't know who the hell would IGL on this team. Maybe Brolan is the kind of player who could have a strong voice, but a lot of these other guys just don't have that leadership in them, in my opinion. You've got Dexter on the AWP, who was brilliant at Cologne. I actually made a video on him recently, which you should check out. But he's definitely the sort of AWPer you want in modern-day Counter-Strike, where it's been so important to save that AWP and be super efficient. He's been great. Then, obviously, Axile, such a good aggressive rifler to have on your team. Someone who is really good at opening up rounds. Frozen is another incredibly talented player. And then Stown has always been solid. He's never blown my mind, but he's generally going to be a capable player at doing what he does. And Brolan's another player who can play aggressive on this team. So in theory, the roles could work out okay. But yet again, that lack of IGL, I think, just costs this team too much and means it can't compete at the top level. In at number 7, it is the 22-year-olds. And this team has a hell of a lot of options, but I don't think it has too many elite options. For example, for IGLs, you've got Hampus, you've got Jame, who made the team, and then you could also put Boomich in there, who is also 22. I personally don't rate Boomich too highly as an IGL. I think Hampers may have the slight edge in fragging and calling, so I put him in instead. Then for AWPers, I've put Jame in the squad because I'm assuming we're just not going to have him doing any calling, and we're just going to let him play his best game individually. But if you're not a fan of Jame, you could chuck Poison in there. You could chuck Farlig in there, who are both also 22. And then the Rifler duos is where it gets much more exciting for me because Electronic and Madden as two crazy aggressive riflers could do really, really well. I think in this team, you probably put Madden in as that first player in and then Electronic behind him, although Hampers also does a lot of aggressive work. So actually, you probably have Hampers going in first and then Madden and Electronic following him up, which is a very tantalizing prospect. And then I just think Shush rounds out this team really well as a really reliable support player who is never going to make too many mistakes. That's probably what this team needs here. And so if you wanted to, you could put Kicker, Kyojin, Keto in there. OC's another option I didn't talk about. Mezzy. There are so many options that you could put into this team, but all in all, I just think it lacks the real true class that some of the teams above have. All right, moving on to number 6. We've got the 25-year-old team, which I kind of put together just because I think it would be hilarious to see this team play. I don't know if it's the best team I could have put together, but how can I not put Art, Mir, and Xantares on the same team? That just sounds absolutely absurd. Just seeing those guys flying around the map would be so fun because they can all play pretty aggressive at times. And then Hunter himself can also do a little bit of work in that sense. Art would obviously be the IGL here. And then AWPing-wise, you have Device who makes the team. But I actually think with this 5-man lineup and with the way Art calls, Searson is a really good shout to throw in there as the AWPer because he's surprisingly good at doing a lot of work with that AWP in close range battles and in positions that are really difficult to work with. I'm not sure Device would love playing with this team considering how fast paced they would be, but I think he's got to go into the team just because of how good he can be. There are also another couple of options which could easily make the team if you want it to be a bit more well-rounded. JKS is a much more passive rifler, which you could throw in there. Zipex could actually be really cool on this team if you just have all these crazy aggressive players going in first, and then Zipex to try and clean up any clutches if possible. All in all, let's be real, this team isn't that well-rounded, and I don't know if it's actually going to work, but I put it together because it's a little bit of fun, and sometimes you just got to have fun, man. Sometimes you've just got to watch Art, Mir, and Xantares entry bomb sites. God, that would be something to watch. In our number 5, we have the 26-year-olds. And the main thing I love about this team is that man, where is he? Down in the bottom left of your screen. You can see him. Glaive as the IGL is so nice to have. You also have Tabson there as an option who is IGLing. And then Dexter is another IGL option. So a lot of good leaders at the 26-year-old range. Cadian is pretty much the only AWP option, but he's a very good AWPer for the top level. He's shown he can do it. Tabson would probably turn into more of a star on this team, with Glaive playing aggressive rifle roles and being the IGL we know he can be. Tabson could focus more on his own game, which I think could work. Then you have Valda in there as another really intelligent player. And something this team could struggle with is the fact that you've got a lot of people who might have their ways of playing Counter-Strike set in, if you like. So you've got Glaive, you've got Cadian, you've got Tabson, you've got Valda, all quite vocal players, which could be difficult to figure out on this team. Obviously, Cadian could IGL too, but isn't needed here. And then Rain is a fine player to round out the roster. He'll do what you tell him to do. I think he could work quite nicely with Glaive in the early round, and you've got some smart players to close it out in the late round. So a fairly well-balanced team, which is maybe why it ranks a bit higher than some of these other squads. Moving up to number 4, it is the 21-year-olds, the young boys getting it done. Don't say young boys, the young lads getting it done. It sounded a bit weird, but we're going to go with it. The main thing 21-year-old squad here is lacking. There's no real IGL, I'm going to be honest, because the players here are incredible. The other thing they're lacking is I haven't put an AWP in the starting lineup. You could go with Cirque or Hades if you wanted to. Cirque has not been in his best form lately, though, and while Hades looks promising, he hasn't proven to me he can do it at the top level yet, mainly because he hasn't had the chance to. So instead, I've gone with the pure rifle team, and I'm sure some players could pick up the AWP occasionally if they really wanted to. IGL-wise, I have no clue who's going to do it here. Rops has been a bit more vocal lately, so he could definitely help out with some ideas, and some of the other players, maybe Queserato, could do some stuff. I'm not really sure how Furia works around Art, but I'd hope that he can help out somewhat. In terms of the players, though, they got some bangers here, man. Queserato is really reliable for Furia. He actually just had a great tournament, too, at Cologne. Rops is someone I don't even need to talk about. He's one of the best players in Counter-Strike right now. I love how he's adapted his game. He seems to be quite a malleable player. He used to be very, very passive on Mouse Sports, and now he's taken on much more of an important role on the squad where he is playing much more aggressively. He's being much more active for the team, and he's adapted that based on what his squad needs from him, which is rare from a star player. Then you have Twists, whose aim is just incredible, and I'd like to see him in a lot of the late round scenarios, because next to him, we have that man Yakindar, who maybe hasn't been at his best lately, but still gives you a good entry fragger on this team, still gives you that player who's capable of making solo plays, and Perfecto is another solid piece just to round out the team. You always feel like he's going to be safe for you. You always feel like he's going to be able to do stuff for the team well. He rarely makes mistakes, and that's all I need from him here. Moving into the top three, we have the 20-year-olds. And already you can see that Gambit duo slapping you right in the face. It's a very strong start to this team. Nafany is obviously an aggressive player, but also a great IGL, someone who's proven he can call to a competent level at Cologne. There maybe were some games where he didn't look as good as they did online, but based on what he's been able to do with them online, I think he's clearly a good IGL and someone who's capable of leading this team. Then AWP-wise, you've got so many options here. I've gone with Shiro because I think he epitomizes what a modern-day AWPer plays like. And sadly, Brokey's going to have to go on the bench here because he had a really good tournament at Cologne. I love Brokey's active AWPing style, but I just think Shiro has been a bit more reliable, a bit more consistent throughout the year. And then Zywoo next to him can pick up the AWP sometimes, but we know that Zywoo actually wants to rifle a bit more, so I think he could work mostly as a rifler on this team, and that would be great. He is still one of the best players in World Counter-Strike today, easily top 5, whatever anyone else tries to tell you. And then rounding out the squad, we have Tesses, who can be an aggressive rifler alongside Nafany, can probably be the second in on this team, and Grim can just round out everything like he does on Liquid. He does a pretty decent job at that. Not too many players on the bench to choose from here, although I must say, Inters was an option for the 20-year-olds, but I decided it would be a bit weird to have the 20-year-old team just have 3 Gambit players in it, so I decided to switch it up a bit and see if I could make something spicy, and I think I delivered. This team looks damn good. Doesn't look quite as good as our team that is in number 2, though, which is the 23-year-olds. Man, this team was so close to the number 1 spot. And you can definitely make the argument in the comments that this should be the best out of all these teams. Instantly for IGL, we've gone with Stewie, which might be the weakest spot on this team. I don't think Stewie's a great caller. I think he's okay. But you also could put Jerry from Fours in there if you wanted to. I wouldn't mind that. He just doesn't play at enough top lands, and I haven't seen enough of Fours recently to put him in there as the IGL. Then for AWP, I mean, Simple is a no-brainer. Sorry, Mantu, the other 23-year-old AWPer, you are going straight to the bench, buddy. We got the best player in the world here. And Simple is a big reason why I kind of wanted to rank this team number 1, but I don't want to be too biased by that recent tournament, which was just ridiculous. I know he normally is exceptional, but he normally isn't quite as ridiculous as he was at Cologne. And the rest of the team is also really, really solid. I've put Magisk in there as a pretty good rifler, someone who hasn't been at his best form lately, but he's improved a little bit at Cologne, and I think he is just someone who generally tends to be quite reliable in those anchor spots. No real complaints here, just a good player. Rez has been really good lately on NIP. I've been impressed by him. He's actually been their highest rated player over Device, as far as I'm aware. So good things to say about Rez. I think he adds more firepower to this team. And then Naf there is someone who can be a bit one-dimensional at times, at least in my opinion. He wants to play that same style towards the back of the pack, but you can't argue with the results that he puts up from those positions. So even if he is a bit one-dimensional, even if he normally likes to be on that more passive side, it works for him, so I can't complain. There are so many more options for this team. I've gone with this starting lineup, but Breeze is a player on the bench who you could choose. I've decided not to go with him because of his recent form, but if he picked it up, he could absolutely slot into the team. Bubsky's another one who you could definitely make a case for being in there. If you really want to just drop the AWP to Simple a lot, you could put Sanji into the team. If you just want to give Simple the AWP in as many rounds as possible, Sanji will do that for you. And then there's Refresh, Danish Nico. There's a lot of good options at 23, but not as many good options at the age 24, which I've put at number 1. Let me know if you guys agree with this, because the 24-year-olds take the top spot. And initially, I was thinking this team didn't look too good, but I just think the way the team works in my head actually ends up working out really nicely with the roles and just with the way everything works here. So firstly, I switched around the IGL a couple of times because, goddamn, you got some good options here. I went with Alexi B because I think this team already has enough firepower and I just want the best reads possible. But if you want to put Blame F in there as a fragger, you can do that. And if you want to put Nexa in there as another good IGL option, I wouldn't hate you for that too. There's a lot of good options here. Then the weakest area of this team is probably the AWP. I don't think Acor has proven he is a top tier AWPer yet. He's been a bit too inconsistent on Mouse. His numbers haven't been ideal, but I think he's okay, especially when you look at some of the other players on this squad. Next, you've got Nico, probably third best player in the world right now, behind Zywoo and Simple. There's definitely arguments to be made for where you want to put those guys, but basically, he's just very, very good at the game Counter-Strike. So he's straight into the squad, no complaints there. Config, I still think, is a very, very good aggressive rifler. It's so rare for an aggressive rifler to be as good as he can be, and the main thing I really like from Config is that he has those takeover games every now and then, and when he has those, this team will just be unstoppable. And then Elige is someone who normally likes to be a more aggressive player, more at the front of the pack. On this team, he may not need to do that, though, because I assume you'd have Alexi and Config doing a lot of aggressive rifling work. So Elige could maybe be more towards the middle of the pack, which in my opinion could open up his game even further, because he is a very intelligent player, very cerebral player. He could do well in clutches, in my opinion. I guess the main question for this team is, do you put Blame F in as the IGL just to give this team bonkers fragging across the board, or do you put Alexi B in there to give them that bit more structure and then to try and just set up Nico and Elige to be those big hitters? I could see why you might want to put Blame F in there, but I just think Alexi B has got such good ideas, such good reads on the game, and I do think he is going to be able to get a lot out of these players. And I do think overall, he's probably going to put these star players in the best positions. And with so much talent on the team, that's the most important thing for me for the IGL. You don't need any more fragging on this team, in my opinion. So I think this is the best squad. It is damn close, though. Simple's team is very good. And I'm sure some of you guys might sub out some of these players and sub in different ones. So let me know your guys' opinions on which of these teams is the best. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will probably be back back to the more regularly scheduled content soon. More analysis stuff, more normal videos, but every now and then, I just come up with some weird ass idea and I just want to do it. So thank you guys for putting up with all of that. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Make sure not to have a voice crack like the one I just had to. And yeah, that's us done. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Oh, the voice crack was so bad.